hello and welcome everyone to our Student Success Faculty Training. Today we're going to do a lot of different kinds of activities, but I want to start off by talking about the value of research and a little bit about the approach that we're using. As you can see, this textbook has a lot of research kind of spread throughout it, and one of the skills that we're going to teach students is how to read and use scholarly articles. So today what I want to do with you is really kind of talk to you about different approaches you can use with your students in the class to help them really learn how to do this skill and gain confidence and increase their self-efficacy. We'll also take a look at some of the specific content related to the textbook that's related to the second edition that will kind of explore and think about some different ways you might be able to integrate it into your class. So let's start by talking about the value of research and why research is so important and why it belongs in the Student Success course in their very first semester. So many of you know that we need our students to really learn strategies that work. So in my experience, when I first started teaching this course, I didn't really know the research. I just knew what worked for me as a student, and I would just share kind of strategies that worked for me and some other general strategies that were in textbooks that I was using at the time. And I was kind of surprised when I finally dove into the literature to discover that some of what I was telling my students wasn't really that accurate. Sometimes we are validated by the research and what works, and other times what we think works isn't really what the literature says. So we want to make sure that we're bringing our students the most up-to-date information about research strategies that really do work for them. So that's really, I think, the key value of having research integrated into the course. Now, why do we want to do this? Well, our faculty here at our college and faculty across the country are all asking students to use scholarly sources very early on in their college careers. In fact, it used to be that the information literacy approach was that you kind of gradually get a little bit of involvement, and throughout the first or second year of your time in college, you'd get more and more sophisticated with the kinds of information literacy skills that you'd be exposed to, whether it's through library visits, English classes, things of that nature. But when they've done some research out there, they have discovered that 97% of students are actually required to use a scholarly source in their very first semester of college. So that old school kind of approach to information literacy is really not where we need to be today. We need to help our students learn these skills very early on. Now, I fully recognize that our students are coming to us with some significant gaps in their reading and writing abilities, and that this is a very challenging task. Nonetheless, it's a task that they need to learn as a first semester college student. It's really going to help prepare them well for their work here at the college level. In addition to it being important, it also kind of has raised the credibility of the class. When I first started teaching this class, students would be like, oh, I had already a study skill class in high school. I don't need another study skills class. I know what I'm doing. And then they take a look at this textbook and they look and they're like, whoa, I haven't ever seen peer-reviewed journal articles before. This looks a little bit new to me and might be a skill set that is something that I have not yet developed or developed as fully as I would like to. So for me, I really have found that students have found it to be much more credible when we have research integrated to the class. They view it as a more academically rigorous class instead of a kind of softer version of the class. It doesn't really feel like a college class. So I think that's kind of another important message. So can they do it? When I first came here, I had a lot of naysayers telling me, Christine, our students can't do this. You're asking them to do too much. You're putting the bar here. Our students are here. And what I would say to them is this is where our students need to be. So if this is where they are, we have to find a way and a path for them to get to where they need to be in order to be successful. And we have had lots of evidence, and many of you have been teaching the class for a really long time and have your own evidence in your class. And some of you are new to teaching, and you'll discover that your students can do it. But there's a little caveat. In order for them to do it, you want to raise the bar, you have to raise the support. So you can't just throw the task at them and expect that they'll be able to do it successfully. Instead, we need to provide high levels of support. And that's what we'll talk about today. What are some of the ways that you can do that in the classroom? Clearly, there's lots of online resources. For instance, you want to make sure your students are using the MindTap so that they're using the Exploring the Research with the Author feature, where I actually narrated every single peer-reviewed article in the textbook, and I walk them through it. putting it in simpler language for them and kind of translating, the journalese to, just more conversational language and helping them really understand the key pieces of the article and what the key findings are. So we have outside of the class resources, but today we're going to focus on what kinds of strategies you can use in the class to help them.